Right, what I'm going to show you is a very well hidden control in Bryce, an Easter egg if you will, that allows you to switch off the anti-aliasing for objects, and that will affect the appearance of the material, but unfortunately it doesn't give you much improvement in render time. But if you want to do that, then change the response to the material, then here's how you do it. Okay, I've made a material here that's got quite a lot of noise in it, and I'm just going to copy and paste that sphere and place them side by side and give them a render so you can see what that looks like. So the thing we're concerned with is the AA pass, and you'll see that the AA pass has reduced quite a lot of the noise in that material. In this one on the right, I go into the attributes, and now I hold the Shift and Control key down together. I suppose that must be Shift and Command on the Mac, but on the PC, Shift and Control, and then check out of the attributes with the little tick there. And now when I render, although the material's the same and it still has the anti-alias pass, the anti-aliasing does not affect the material applied to that object. But as I say, you don't really gain any render performance improvements out of it, or if they are, they're quite small, but you do gain a different effect on the material. And you can also see there's a slightly bitty outline there as well, so you can see the outline of the object itself is not anti-aliased. So that's a hidden feature in Bryce, though of limited use. Of more use to understand, we'll just move on from this now, is how you can control the anti-aliasing pass so it doesn't anti-alias as many pixels, which does improve render performance. So I'm going to introduce now a volumetric slab, which I've got in here somewhere. Okay, here we go. So here's just a cloud. It's probably the Big Sur one that comes with the free content, so tend to have that one handy. And excluding this from the anti-aliasing pass does not give you a significant measurable, or very slightly measurable increase in performance, because it's still having to look through the volumetric slab to see the background, so that has to be anti-aliased. So what I can do is I'll take this size down so it's a manageable size, and I'm going to get report render time switched on so you can measure the results of this in its default state and the anti-aliasing pass without it taking too long. So that this is just its ordinary render pass, and then in the anti-aliasing you can see that it slows down towards the horizon. That's because we're seeing through a greater thickness of cloud and there's more detail there, so it requires more anti-aliasing. So if you can put mountains or hills on the horizon when you've got volumetric clouds, and it will improve your render times considerably, because this is where a lot of the time is lost. That's taken 31 seconds. So now, if we look in the render options in regular mode, you have the option of changing the AA tolerance. If the tolerance is set down to 0, every pixel will be anti-aliased with its neighbours. And I don't think it's just the pixels, it's also the rays within those pixels. So this is, the AA rays will probably be about 7 rays per pixel. That'll be what that's about, and so you could turn that up for greater levels of sampling, which in turn will slow the render time down. The AA radius allows you to soften the effect of the anti-aliasing, so you get a slightly softened render. But the control that we're interested in is this one really, and I don't want to get sidetracked into discussing what these do, so we'll just look at AA tolerance. Now I reckon that if you put 55 in here, then this will have a fairly, you will observe it, but it has a fairly negligible effect on the appearance of most materials, but it will improve the render time with the AA pass. But if you've got very thin lines in your render, you might see them broken up, but you can see now that's taken it down to 12 seconds. That's less than half the render time that it was before, with just that minor modification. If you take this right up to 255, then you might as well be rendering without an AA pass. So you just have to look at the effect of on the other materials in your scene, because the clouds don't really need the anti-aliasing, they look fine without as a rule, and see whether you can get away with more and more tolerance as it leaves more noise in your scene. But if you, like I say, if you set it to 0, which has entirely the opposite effect, then it'll anti-alias every ray in the scene, and this is getting towards the same result as using the high quality rendering option, so the premium rendering options and things like that. But because this is a different render engine to the premium, render engine, then it is extremely slow if you choose this option. So just be aware when you're meddling with the AA tolerance that it's making the number larger that will reduce your render times, and making it smaller could dramatically increase your render times. As you can see now, it's really slowed down the whole process. So that's the end of the tutorial, really. So it's object specific anti-aliasing can be turned on and off with going into the attributes and holding the shift and control key down together and checking out. Make sure you check out and don't use the cross, otherwise it won't work. And if you want to restore the anti-aliasing, which I should have mentioned before I suppose, hold the shift key down and check out, and then the object will once again be included in the anti-aliasing pass. Now I'm just curious to see how long this is going to take with the anti-aliasing on every ray applied. As I imagine this is going to be more than a minute now when it's completed its render pass. You can see it's even taking a while on the fairly featureless ground. So there you go, the extremes. Okay, the end of the tutorial. I'll call this a 5-minute one. Don't worry about that extra minute, that doesn't count.